Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of TheCaliEffect. Today we're going to be talking about the top contending decks of the next format, the possible top contenders. This list is based off of what happened last format, the ban list, and what's going to happen in the future formats. And actually, there's 8 possible decks that can all be tier 1, sharing this tier 1 ability all at one time. That is amazing. The last time that we've had a format like this was, I guess, Synchro Cap. I couldn't think of any other format like when Synchro Cap, Blackwing, Gladiator Beast. No, there's never been a format where 8 decks could share the tier 1 spot. So I'm very excited to talk about all of these decks. We're going to be starting off with Fire Fist. Fire Fist has not seen a hit like people would think. Oh, Tinky to 1, Wolfbark to 1, Bear to 1. No. The only thing that affected Fire Fist this list was Wolfbark 2-1. Rekindling, you could say, but by the time most players did have Rekindling in your 3-axis build, it was pretty much game already. It was a great card. It complemented Fire Fist a lot, but if at most you only needed 1 or 2, so 1 or 2 doesn't really hurt your game plan either way. Fire Fist are an extremely good combo-based deck. They have outs to just about anything. They have the ability to search out all of their monsters. They have just about everything you look for in a deck when it comes to a competitive aspect. Monster destruction, monster effect, negation, special summon abilities, OTK potential, lockdown potential. They just have it all. And with the ban list coming up, hitting Wolfbark to 1 and Spirit to 1, Blasters to 1 and Rekindling to 1, those are your only hits. Fire Fist can still make a run to be one of the top contending decks this format. Like I said, they have so much still going for them. Their only down point is that with them being hit and the other decks gaining more support, Fire Fist could fall out of the format during mid to late format in favor of another deck. It's still one very viable deck. It's going to have to change how it plays because last format, that was not Fire Fist. It was a +1 variant. Anytime when you run triple Wolfbark and triple Bear and you try to call that Fire Fist, I mean, I guess I can run triple Mystical Space Typhoon and triple Fiendish Chain and call it 3-chain Typhoon deck. I mean, if that's what you guys really want to call Fire Fist. But this is the time that Fire Fist can really step up and be a genuine deck and use most of the great Fire Fist to play the game. Next, we're going to be talking about Mermail. Mermail received a huge hit, and when I mean huge hit, it completely destroyed the deck by putting Gun to 1. Wait, it didn't? Gun is only once per turn, right? Gun is still searchable, right? So Mermail's technically didn't get hit. With Gun to 1, I guess you can't Hoban and Upstart and hope to get that gun, because if you don't get it, then it's fine. You do have to dedicate more resources to now getting Gun and recycling Gun, which I guess is fine. You don't have that major gun combos and, you know, next turn follow up with another gun, which still is fine. But did Mermail really get hit this format? Mermail has dodged the list it's dodged the list at least 3 times, only to be slapped on the hand 3 times in a row. The Diva, Dragoons, Title, and now Gun. Well, actually 4 times, I guess. Mermails are an extremely viable deck this format. They have not been touched too hard. The only thing that could stop Mermails is, like I said, with Fire Fist. If other decks get more support to just outmatch Mermails and Fire Fist, that's the only way that I can see Mermails and Fire Fist not being played this format. They have extremely good combo. They have a lot of synergy. They have the ability to make synchro and exceed plays just like Fire Fist. So expect this deck to be very good. It's just nothing that can stop it once it starts going. Dropping a 2400 attack, a monster that can attack twice. It searches a trap card that searches another monster that gets you any of your resources to the board. It's just too good. And like I said, it has everything you need in a competitive deck. OTK ability, monster destruction, spell and trap destruction, effect negation. This deck has it all still. Next, we're going to be talking about Geargia. Geargia went completely untouched by the list. I was at least hoping for a Karakiri hit to prevent the Geargias from going all out and OTKing, but I guess Konami felt different. Now, there's only one problem with Geargia. First of all, if the player base is more dedicated to setting 5 million back row and drawing that armor and setting it, or if the player base really wants to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because with Geargia now, it's set 5 back row, set Geargia armor, trap stun you, do the Geargia gear card, and OTK you. A lot of people, while it is a winning playstyle, this isn't the only tier 1 deck. And so when there's multiple tier 1 decks, a lot of people would like to play the deck that they feel is fun, quote unquote. Geargia, not really one of those decks where it's so reliant on having these key pieces to set up, and if you don't have it, you lose. But the great thing for Geargia coming out is that it's getting more support. Geargia is going to get a couple of more cards that is going to definitely push it more towards the Geargia aspect instead of the Karakuri Geargia OTK aspect, and hopefully they'll have the ability to play downright on their own. Whereas before we seen Machina Geargia, then we seen something else Geargia, now Karakuri Geargia. Maybe it'll just be pure Geargia or just a Monster Mash type build. I think Geargia is also one of the only decks that can benefit from the pendulum summoning mechanic in the future, because you can run a Monster Mash variant, and pendulum summons are so reliant on Monster Mash that on top of that you have so many monsters that search out other monsters from the deck to replenish you dropping so many monsters in the field. Yeah, Geargias are a prime example for easy pendulum summoning type monsters. Next is Harpies, which Harpies are an amazing deck, don't get me wrong, but they're going to be so dependent on next format like they were dependent on last format. If the format ever happens to be a back row heavy format, then Harpies can definitely thrive, take over, and be able to be one of the contenders of the format. If artifacts come out, then, or if artifacts come out and Harpies, and artifacts are a top deck, then Harpies are kind of screwed, because destroying your opponent's artifacts with Harpies aren't one of the best tactics you want to do. They're going to need to reinvent themselves, hopefully get some more indirect support or some support or something to be able to keep up with artifact. Really wanted to put that out there, that they're just extremely dependent on the meta. Depending on whatever happens, Harpies can be competitive or not. I think the biggest thing that Harpies do have going for them is that they did get untouched by the list. Nothing completely touched them, while they didn't get helped either, which would have helped, anything. I don't know, Gale. Gale wouldn't have helped them directly, but it would have helped Blackwings and them at the same time. But actually, Gale wouldn't have really helped them at all. But still, give them something. I don't know, Tempest. Harpy is just one of those decks. And, man, I really want this deck to be good. And the best thing, like I said, it did have going for it is Hysteric Sign. Being able to send it to the graveyard to add 3 different Harpies from your deck to your hand is just really too good to be true. Next is Madolche's. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I do not ever see this this deck as a tier 1 deck. Mainly because Madolche's have almost everything there. Even with Angeli coming out, the deck is still reliant on one thing and one thing only. That play. That bringing out the Invoker play, that Angeli into your Hoop Cake or Mufili or however you guys want to put it. That one play. If you can find a way to stop that one play, which Effect Veilers, Skill Drain, Fiendish Chains are all viable and played a lot in the upcoming last format, which I can only assume which will be played a lot in the next coming format. Madolche's cannot be tier 1, just because if you stop that one play, they just sit there and they're like, okay, your turn, and then you go off and they try to stop you. But if you're Fire Fist or Mermail, you're gonna have answers. If you're Geargia, you trap stunned them before, and if you're Harpy, you're just gonna screw with their back row, which is gonna be really hurtful to Madolche's. Now, they do have I do expect them to win a couple of things. I don't expect them to define the meta. I don't expect them to be tier 1. I just expect them to be a really solid deck, a very playable deck, a local winning type deck, a regional winning type deck, and possibly a YCS topping type deck, not a YCS winning type deck over and over again. And I don't expect them to be the national winner or the world's winner, but it's still just a really good deck. Next, which is going to define how we play Yu-Gi-Oh, because this deck is just so stupid, artifacts. Uh, I don't I don't understand why Konami likes to make these type of decks that require little interaction with the opponent. Because I just set my artifacts and then I malevolent catastrophe you when you attack. Because that requires so much interaction. Or I just typhoon myself to get off my artifacts. Or I have that other typhoon artifact card. Like, why did you make this, Konami? That was just dumb. I feel that if this deck does become tier 1, the way that we play Yu-Gi-Oh! Will forever be changed. As long as this deck remains tier 1. As long as cards from this deck remain in people's decks. The way that we play Yu-Gi-Oh! Will forever change. Just because back row destruction is so important in our format. And artifacts are back row monsters. It's gonna mess up a lot of the decks and a lot of the formats. For example, Harpies. It's gonna completely screw over Harpies if they over tier 1, because Harpies are just like, I can't destroy anything. This is what they do. This is what they like to do. Granted, Abyss Dweller is a card, and there's still so many more outs to artifacts, but it's just like, why would you make such a retarded mechanic? If this deck becomes tier 1, I probably won't be playing this format, just because it's an annoying deck to play against. Not really one of the best decks, and still probably won't take over the meta like it did in the OCG, but it's still one of those annoying decks. Next is the question mark deck. The deck with all of the questions. Bujins tend to create a soft lock, which by history, any deck that can create soft locks, Gladiator Beast with Cold Wave, well, I guess you could call that a hard lock with Stardust, with Teleport Darkon, but any deck that can create soft locks can dominate a meta, especially if it's a soft lock that says this monster can't be destroyed or targeted. Like, that's pretty good. Or when you attack it, you discard a card and the monster becomes double its attack. So, with that being said, Bujins have a lot of room for the next format. They still get more support in Primal Origins, and on top of that, they have not been hit by the ban list at all whatsoever. There's not a single touch on them on the ban list. I guess if you brought Honest down to 2, I'd be even more scared of them because they're just that good. Bujins are a battle heavy deck, and that's the only thing that is stopping them right now, because almost every battle heavy deck in the past formats, for the exception of Gladiator Beast, have not really fared so well. Depending on the meta, if this deck is a tier 1, this will also change how people play, because the deck is so graveyard reliant and it does so well with Kaiser Coliseum. Those will automatically be main decks, so cards to stop them, which are normally seen in main decks, will probably be main decked as well. Bujin has not lived up to its hype at all. Hopefully it'll be able to do that sometime in the future. The last deck I want to talk about is Lightsworn. Now, like I said, there has been no hit to Lightsworn this last ban list. If Charge went down to 2, I would be going crazy right now because I wouldn't even need to do support. The biggest reason why Lightsworn is in this is because Lightsworns are now getting their new structure deck this summer. And from what I've seen on the box, I think they're getting some special never seen before spell cards. So yeah, Lightsworn might be that deck to beat. Lightsworn has a 3000 beater who just happens to be the strongest monster in the game that is not banned. And probably the strongest monster in the game, period. You know, pay 1,000 life points, blow up the whole world, and you have 3 of them? Yeah, that just seems really good. Not only that, they're getting more monsters with Lightsworn in their name. So that just makes summoning Judgment Dragon a lot more easy. Lightsworn is definitely one of those decks that has proven themselves to be one of those inconsistent great pieces of who knows what. So hopefully with the new Lightsworn support, they'll gain consistency. Once they gain consistency, Lightsworn will be a deck to watch. Now there's a couple of Darkhorse decks that I'm thinking about, mainly Blackwings, because the reason why I haven't even put Blackwings in this list, because not a lot of people are skilled players, let's face it. Blackwings have evolved. I'm gonna take back everything I've said about Blackwings, because Blackwings have evolved from what they were to what they are now. Blackwings are a very skilled deck. When you only have triple whirlwind and you know Shura Bora Gale doesn't do what it used to do back then, you're required to play a lot of skill. You're required to play this deck skillfully than the past formats when it was good. It's a very, very good deck. A lot of summoning going on, and the biggest thing about Black Wings that make them so good is that it's practically unaffected by Maxi. It's practically unaffected by Effect Veiler. It's unaffected by a lot of sideboard options, and the next thing about it is that it has Icarus attack. Any deck that has Icarus attack is just pretty good on my level. Being able to tribute a Winged Beast to destroy cards on the field, 2 of them? That's nothing to Black Wings. They do that all the time. That, their special summon abilities, the ability to make their own synchros, their piercing, it's just so much they have going on for them. Just a really good Black Horse. Next, another Black Horse will be Dark World. Not going to really talk about them. They are starting to require a little more skill. Actually, they're starting to require skill, which they used to not. I've seen a lot of variants popping up, and then there's just a couple of unknown or probably known decks, but just low light that could possibly pop up and win something and then just disappear, because that's just what raccoons are and decks like that are. Please forgive me, YouTube. How can I forget about this deck? I don't know how it slipped my mind, but Sylvan. This deck has the ability to go first turn Draco Sack, first turn Felgrand Dragon. It has a lot of potential and just a lot of good things going on for it. That being said, it also is very vulnerable to Effect Veiler and Max C. Just one of those decks that probably will see a lot of hype, but I don't know if it's going to actually live up to the hype. It's a really good deck, don't get me wrong, and the excavating thing was a little random, but when you get a field spell card such as, what is it called? I forget. When you get that field spell card that allows you to stack cards to the top of your deck, you get the Graceful Charity card, you get so many other things that it just works so well with the deck. The deck can really, really, really be good. I'm definitely not going to doubt it. It could be a tier 1 type deck, but if it is, I would actually hope for it to be a tier 1 type deck, because this is one of the decks, like I've said, just so susceptible to a lot of sideboard things. But thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy.